Chef Rosenberg here. Got Ulrich.
What's going on?
DOCDOC the Surgeon.
DOCDOC the Surgeon. Ulrich. Big Elvis the Chef. I'm over here changing from the other shirt I was in to this shirt. Now I'm remembering why I stopped wearing this shirt. Because the buttons are too small for the slots. So I'm going to have to find another shirt to wear. Is the air on?
It is.
All right, good. Because my other shirt is a little more brolic. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna discuss today. We're gonna have a topic-based show today, and this topic is gonna be where we have a mother, and this mother is a woman that gave up almost her whole entire family for success, for clout. She gave up. She wrote a book. Let me just tell you why I like this woman.
Okay.
It might sound like I don't like this woman, but I like this woman because she wrote a book.
What's this woman's name?
Her name is Nene Leakes.
Okay.
Nene Leakes. And Nene Leakes is a public figure. Okay? She's done television. She's done reality TV. She's done actual series television as well. She's done acting and stuff like that. And she had this guy that she knew, and she fell in love with this man. She was a single mother.
So is there anything that we would know her in?
No.
You'd be familiar with?
She's a single mom. And what she did was, she told her businessman husband, she's like, listen, I want to become a socialite. And I want to take this socialite world by storm. And I need you to fund me for it. And he did. He funded her. So much so that she got a nice name for her all over certain parts of Atlanta. I think it was like Athens, where the Boulay live, and all that. And she was all over. She was doing a lot of functions as far as like charity work. So her name was ringing bells. She had this son of hers that she was a single mother of, and the man married her. He did the right thing. He became a great stepfather and all that kind of stuff. That son wound up becoming a drug addict. The next son she had with the husband is only he's a teenager, and he recently he just had a stroke, and people were saying it was drug related because the first son, the brother. But I always remember this one thing about Nene, and is that she said that she stole her son's ambition by giving him everything. She gave her son everything. So that stole his ambition, and she wrote this in her book. I read it, and it was very, very, very good. So what do you think about a parent who says, the reason why my son is the way he is on drugs, because her son became like a bit of a socialite himself, but he wound up having babies at a very young age, teenage age, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so first tell me about this, tell me some of the issues that the son had. So
the first son that wasn't Greg, her husband's.
Okay.
There was.
All right. So there's two sons.
There's the one that she had with the husband who took on that single mother.
Okay. And what are his issues?
His issues were that he had a bunch of babies while he was still like a teenager, and he never finished college that she paid for, and he every business he's ever been in failed. Well, I'm saying for me, but, I had no funding. I didn't have a mother with money. All right, so what we did was DOCDOC the Surgeon, he ran and he made sure that we went to the right spot that we want to go to, because I wanted to use this platform as an opportunity to talk with DOCDOC the Surgeon and get his kind of perspective on what is it that he hears in this. And I just wanted to give a little backstory, because one of the fun facts about these two guys that are my friends is that they have no social media. They don't know when you say Nene Leakes, they're like, who?
Not in the YouTube streets.
Yeah. So that's why this dynamic here is the way it is. It's done on purpose. So go ahead. Let's play Nene, and you can show a little bit of it. Fair use, of course. This is fair use. Fair use. This is educational purposes here. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
Let's see. How'd that go?
Hey guys, how are you? So obviously, I've gotten tons of text messages, tons of emails. Everybody's asking and concerned about Brent, and we thank you guys so much. This is not the way I wanted it to come out. We wanted to be able to talk about it ourselves when Brent was in a better place. So here I am, because I would rather the correct thing be out there than something that's not correct. 2 weeks ago today, Brent had congested heart failure and a stroke. He's only 23, so he's really young for something like that to happen to him. The first thing, a lot of doctors think of when someone that age come in with that kind of condition is maybe they have done drugs, or maybe they have some serious infection, maybe HIV or some sort of infection is what I'm being told by the doctors. Brent doesn't drink or do drugs. And obviously they've tested him for all of those things. They also tested him for HIV. They were thinking that maybe he had caught COVID and he didn't know that he had COVID. They did see, the doctors are saying they did see some things like that happen if they caught the Delta variant. And he never knew he had COVID. I've never known him to have COVID. So they have run a number of tests on him to see what could have possibly made this happen to him. And we are still trying to figure out, because if we knew the cause, obviously they could treat the cause. It was very scary. I don't even want to go into details of what happened and how I found out and what condition he was in. Obviously a stroke is a very serious thing, and so he's struggling, with speaking, and it's...
I think we've gotten the gist.
Yeah, I think we got the gist. So,
what's going on?
so like, why don't you switch here? Let's switch real quick. Boom, bang. You come up a little closer. Yeah, there we go. So when I sent this to you, what was your first reaction?
The very first thing is these are sad situations, and one thing that should never ever really happen, never ever happen, is when you have a young person that's that age to have a situation like heart failure or stroke. That doesn't happen.
What are the chances? Does it ever happen?
It happens. There's some certain situations that we'll kind of like talk about that it may occur, but for the most part, it is not something that you would hear. And if it occurs, there's something that you need to look into. Now, we could talk about the offshoot situations that could occur. So one of the things we have to think about is the cardiomyopathy and what we call heart failure. Heart failure is something that you get where the pump in your heart is not really pushing the blood out. It's not going to where it goes to. Now, without getting into the technical things of it, but it could be because the heart can't relax or because the heart can't squeeze. That does not happen with a young person. That just doesn't happen with like a young person who's in their 20s, 30s, 40s, now even 50s, unless there's some very specific precipitating factors that's going to cause that to happen. The same thing with stroke.
Right. Well, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
She said that he had a combination of this stroke and a heart. What was it that she said?
Yeah, and also the congestive heart failure.
Congestive heart failure along with a stroke.
So,
22-year-old young man.
So a 22-year-old young man is not supposed to have congestive heart failure, and not a stroke. So the fact that he's having both at the same time, that's alarming. So now the things that we can't really say here, all the things we're going to talk about now is all conjecture, because what you really need to know is the history. You really need to know what this kid's history was and what the background is. Without the background, we're just blowing in the wind.
Right.
You know, we really don't know nothing at all that's going on. And then you have to really know that you're getting the actual real truth and facts. So you mentioned something earlier. One of the things that can cause that, especially with this young person, they're going to look into previous drug history.
Right.
You know, and there's some very specific ones, you know, cocaine and those type of things. But we're talking about for both to happen, it's weird.
So
See,
there's not a drug, they haven't made this drug yet.
You know, so the
That's
thing is,
causing stroke and heart attack.
So the thing is, it would be very weird for it to occur, and then, you know, how much is he doing? So that's the other thing, you know. So, but the thing is, we don't know the history about this kid and what's been going on, what's his background is. You know, has he been into rehabs and so on and so forth to say, okay, well, he have a real
Not
drug
publicly. There's nothing public about him going into rehab. Whereas I believe his brother did deal with some of that.
Yeah. Okay. So, and that kind of gives a link. Well, you know, is it something that's happening? Is it something that's, you know, in the family that's going on that, you know, that he may also, you know, be suffering from? So that's one possibility. Other possibilities is to figure out like a travel history. You know, has this kid ever been anywhere? So there's certain weird type of infection that can cause this. You know, one that comes to mind is what we call a Chagas disease.
Chagas?
Yes.
How do you spell that?
So that's a Chagas. And normally in South America, you know, certain different places like that, you can contract that. And if it gets bad enough, it can cause cardiomyopathy. Now, if you have bad enough cardiomyopathy, so if you think about it, you know, when you have a stroke, it is pretty much the blood vessels or the, you know, the blood that's carrying the oxygen up towards the head, it gets blocked, or there's a clot that, you know, cuts off a certain part of the brain. And depending on what part of the brain that it affects, going to give you the result of the symptom that it affects. So I think she said something about him not be able to talk or whatever.
Right.
So there's different areas, and for somebody who have a stroke, they can't move certain parts, certain limbs, different right or left side. So these are the different type of things that's going on. So when you have cardiomyopathy, so if the blood is sitting there, it can pool and it could clot, and then, you know, that can cause a clot. Maybe, you know, but the fact that you have the Chagas disease, so we don't know what his travel history is, so that's one thing. Or we have to think about whether or not he's taking any medication or remedies that have those as side effects. So that's a different thing. So we don't know what he's been taking or what he's taken recently. So that's another thing that we don't know about. You know, now she did mention that they test him for a couple of different stuff, and he was cleared of those. So we know that's not the cases. So whether or not he took some type of medication or something that has those types of side effects. So that's something else to look into his history, but we don't know that information.
Okay, so what information has been put forth so far? So what do we know so far?
Well, I mean, the only thing that so far that I know from what she's saying is just the fact that they test them for, you know, for the HIV. They also test them for C19, and I'm sure. And the thing is, when you get into this situation, there's a battery of tests that they're going to run because there's a lot of things they have to rule out. Another part of history we have to think about, which can cause this heart issue, is something like high blood pressure and hypertension that's not controlled. But that happens after 15, 20 years of you not taking your, you know, taking care of your hypertension,
Right.
and it's damaging the heart and stuff like that. And then you get cardiomyopathy. It doesn't happen like that. If he was a woman and she had, and there's certain pregnancies that certain women are prone to having cardiomyopathy because of pregnancy, that can occur, but that's not the case of him. He's a guy, unless, you know, these days we know how that whole thing goes, so we're not sure, you know.
These days we know how what thing goes.
Well, how does he self-identify? Let me say that. So
Oh.
if he said
He identifies, I believe, as a straight man. But he might
so-
be even super straight.
so
Because he's in Atlanta, you know, so
Yeah,
you got to either be super straight, because you just can't say straight.
You gotta be-
Because you know what they say in Atlanta.
No.
They say straight to bed and back for more.
What? How does that work?
Never in my life.
You've never heard that in your life?
Never, ever.
Yeah, I actually heard that years ago in New York as a kid, coming up straight to bed and back for more.
Oh.
You know? So I guess you got to now say super straight. Super straight is like the new thing.
No,
It's
but
it's on Reddit and the other stuff. But
So this lady Lenny, what's her name? Lenny?
her name is Nene.
Nene. Okay. So Nene's a public figure. So there's a lot of speculation going on about what's going on with her son, just generally.
Right.
So what is some of the? So you kind of told us about the medical side. So what are some of the kind of speculations about what could be going on with them? Are there some presumptions?
That's why we on these YouTube streets.
What have you
what
heard
do
on
you
some
guys
of these
think?
YouTube streets?
I'm wondering, like,
You hear anything?
if anybody out there have any comment or any suggestions, like, what do they think might be going on?
Right.
That's interesting. It'd be interesting to see what some of the comments are. But
Also, check this out, y'all. Could it be the jab?
well,
I mean, it can definitely be the jab. It can 100% be the jab. Now, do we know that he's outspoken or?
I believe
spoken?
he has had the jab.
Okay, he's had the jab. So I think it's a big possibility it could be the jab. Like you said earlier, it's really unlikely that anything would like just spontaneously like happen, like have the potential of having a stroke or the potential of having a heart attack with being someone his age. So it has to be something kind of odd, something special.
Right.
So something rare. So I mean, would you say so? I guess another assumption would be drugs. Now, would you say even drug abuse would cause something so like aggressively and spontaneously as his symptoms did?
it can. The question is, we don't know how long the drug thing has been going on, how long this kind of been happening. So it's all possible that we learn of it as it being very sudden and acute, but it might have been something that's been lingering for a while. So we really don't know as far as that's concerned. As far as whether or not it's associated with the jab, well, I have not studied this myself. But some of the thoughts that's out there, that there is a thought about a possible risk factor associated with clot formation. So that's kind of like been in the literature. And also there's also a number of folks who develop cardiomyopathy, which is just enlarging of the heart, which in itself can lead to congestive heart failure.
And stroke though?
But the fact that the association with the clot formation by itself can cause stroke, with nothing associated with the heart at all. So
exactly.
So
Yeah,
So
but
it
we're
can have a
talking about a
domino effect,
65-year-old
so-
man, not
Yeah.
a 22-year-old.
no. So the thing about it is, definitely can't say that's what it is from, but it's one of those areas that the doctors, I'm sure, will probably be looking into to see whether or not there's some type of correlation.
I think it's sad.
No, it is.
Whatever the case is, I think it's
It
really
is, it
sad.
is.
I know he just lost his father. The husband that I said that funded her career
Oh, that's
in the
right.
beginning, he passed. He just passed, I believe. I could be wrong.
I have no idea who this woman is.
Yeah. But Nene was the type of woman that a lot of black women that are like, let's say 40, between let's say 35 or 32 and 42, they really respected her and still do. So she's very highly respected.
Is there anything she did that garnered this respect? Or is it
What
just
did
her
Nene
image?
do to garnish the respect? Nene basically said, I'm going to have this and I'm going to fail in front of the world to get it and win.
So it's kind of
And
like
that
a
was
Cardi
like-
B story.
This is like a Cardi B story. It is kind of like a Cardi B story. That's that story where you go on reality TV and you fake it till you make it and then you win. Where Nene didn't fake it till she made it. Nene was the woman who went to the nail salon and she would tell the person there when they asked her, would you like something to drink? She says, yes, tap water in a wine glass. So she knew what she wanted. She didn't necessarily fake it till she make it. But most people in reality TV, the Cardi B people, they faked it until they made it. I'm not saying that Nene made it, but Nene knew where she was going. And she was one of the few people that actually talked good about her husband on television. So that was a good thing too.
No, that's awesome.
Is she a real housewife?
For a time, yes.
Is that
Yes. She was a
okay.
Real Housewife, yes. For
Is it from one of
the
the
show?
shows?
Or you saying, was she a housewife or was she on
From
the
the-
show?
from the
Yeah,
show.
she's
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
show.
yeah.
She's from the show, The Housewives.
Oh,
Yeah, she's
Okay.
from the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Atlanta. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
They got
And
another.
she,
They
you know,
got.
I gravitated to her because she's tall. You know, my wife is real tall,
Mm-hmm.
so she has that form. You know, I like that long model-esque. You know, of course, we're all chasing after our mothers on the low. You know, and it's you know, so I found Nene. She reminded me of my mom a little bit. So I've always had a soft spot for her. One of the reasons why I read her book, and it was really such a profound statement in the book when she says, and let me tell you, I actually parent my children off of this book.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, where she says that I gave my children everything and I stole their ambition.
Oh yeah.
I never will forget that.
Oh,
That's
that's a nice. That's a nice way to put it.
You like my kids, like did you see when my son handed me that book report today? When the first thing I told my son was, I hope this is not you copy and pasting Wikipedia, because you got to be a little hard on him. He has to feel like
Yeah.
all night. What are you gonna say?
Yeah, earlier we ran into his son, and his son handed over a report about the Statue of Liberty over, and he the first thing that he did was take a look at it and kind of say, he read the first two lines and he thought, hey, I hope he didn't copy this from Wikipedia, because it sounded very proper. It sounded something that wouldn't naturally come out of anybody's mouth.
Right, exactly, because we're doing the objective perspective.
Yeah.
So, but let me just tell you, so in other words, I was hard on him like that, but in other words, I'm not like my son, he has a phone, but I just took it away for a month because he was so rude to his sister. Not a month, a week, because he was so rude to his sister. It's like the third time I've had to take his phone because of his attitude, right? Whereas Nene would just be like, no, it's okay. Get him another phone. Get him a better phone. Now let's get him a car. Now let's furnish his whole entire.
You looked up to that?
No, I did not look up to that.
That's what
I
she
looked
did
up to
as the mistake.
I looked up to the mistake that she admitted to doing.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So that's why I don't give my kids everything. I don't give my kids. You see what I have in the car. Where did I buy the gift for my daughter's birthday? Do you remember? I showed you. Do you remember where I said? Do you remember where I said I got the gift?
I don't remember the name.
But what kind of place did I buy my daughter's gift?
What do you call it? Thrift, right?
A thrift shop, correct. So a thrift shop is where I found the most amazing a rabbit scarf with cashmere gloves with the little balls, the little rabbit balls on the top of the cashmere gloves. I bought this for my daughter, and I ain't taking this price tag off of it. And I think it's $3. Because we don't have to spend the $250 that the original owner bought that never used it, that just put it up in a shelf somewhere for the last 15 years, and then it made its way to the thrift shop, and then I show up and I say my daughter would love this because I took on Nene's concepts of not giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. Now we're gonna go to a thrift shop and get you a birthday gift. That's how I'm getting down. And Nene has taken part in this. It's like strange. It's it's not a direct link to my parenting, but it's part of it. I want my kids to be like my kids. I made them walk the other day. They were like going to the library and they were gonna take their bikes, but they always take their bikes. But this time I said, no, I want you to walk. They were like, what? Daddy, you're gonna make us walk? I said, yes. And on the walk, guess what they found? Strawberries growing from out of a crack of a person's like fenced off area. And they're like, I said, what you do with the strawberries? She said, we ate them. My daughter said, I ate them. I was like, Madison, are you serious? What if they were poisonous? She said, no, I know a strawberry when I see one. So that happened on their walk. I want them to be hungry for success and for life. I don't want them to think that somebody's gonna come and just figure it out for you.
No, it's a real big deal, especially now with my two boys. You know, you talk about taking the phone away. Recently, I just, been doing that with them all the time because they have such a poor manager of their attention. So it's a real problem, and we don't like that.
Yeah.
So, been talking with their mom.
Look right here for me.
And also, in addition to that, talking to their mom, talking to them and letting them know the fact that you have to manage your attention. And if you can't manage your attention, you can't have these devices. These devices are really, really dangerous. And the thing about it is, even us as adults, you know, it sucks into your life and sucks into your time and stuff like that. We have coworkers who are literally glued to the thing for like hours, you know, and they just can't peel themselves away from it. And it's a super dopamine hit.
Yes.
So in other words, it's designed to suck you in and to keep you sucked in there. So
Right.
I'm trying, it's almost like I regret getting them the phone to begin with.
Oh yes.
It really is.
Oh, yeah.
But we kind of like needed it so to be in touch with them when they come out of school and stuff like
That's
that.
what I figured out something for that. I'm getting them the Motorola walkie-talkies.
See, that's a good idea.
We all gonna have walkie-talkies. Beep beep.
But the thing about it is like now they're so used to this crap already, so it's like
No,
but the thing is,
you can take it away.
Yeah.
And the only thing you have to make sure is that the other parent is gonna follow the lead.
no. I mean, so the thing is, but you want them to be a master of their own thing. So you want them to police their own attention span. So that
No.
No. The thing is, you want them to learn that because the thing is, you know, you could always force it on them, but then that don't stop them from when they actually
It's
have
not
to.
forcing
you know?
on the child.
Well, what I mean by forcing is that
It's rules.
you
And
take it
this-
from them, so you got the rule, you take it from them. But now, you know, they could clamor for it so much that when they actually are free and they're 18 or whatever, so now they dive in head deep because they never got a chance to do it before. So now it's like letting them be exposed to it, but you need to control yourself. You need to.
It's
Wait,
difficult.
but you think restrictive parenting creates overindulgence later in life?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. You know, seeing that, you know, kind of like repeats itself on a couple of cases in a roundabout way, it kind of like really affected. You know, it has an effect. Sometimes it keeps them, you know, secluded or have difficulty stepping out. You know, and then you have others.
What you mean keeps them secluded? What keeps them secluded?
So in other words, you have some parents who are so strict.
Of course.
And those parents who are so strict, you find those kids, some of them have a hard time being social, and then you have the other ones that become super social. You know, so you have two sets. You can have a parent who's very, very restrictive of their daughter. And this daughter, when she gets out to high school, she becomes the campus, you know, out there.
Right.
And then you have the other one who is like, don't want to talk to nobody and is very bashful. So it's
Yeah, but if the same parenting causes two different extremes, then the parenting has no real effect on what's going to happen, what's going to come out of the child.
well, it's the
I agree.
Well,
I would agree with Ulrich only because let me tell you, you have those two boys. Yes, they are different. I have the most polar opposite of children. I mean, totally night and day between the two of them. One is outgoing, the other one is very timid and shy. One, let me just explain it in, forget about timid and shy. I have a daughter and a son that have the same art teacher. My children have the same last name. And the art teacher did not know that they were brother and sister because they were so different in their art. I'm like, yeah, Madison and Cody are brother and sister. And the art teacher was like, how come I don't know this? He's like, oh my goodness. He's like, they're so different. They are. He's like, your son, he wants every detail to be right, but yet your daughter could care less and she's throwing paint everywhere and making masterpieces. So I would not like buy into what you said about to be careful with restricting the child, because with restricting the child, it's like when you're driving and you tell your kid to put the seatbelt on, right? I had to like really get nasty with my kids as they've been growing up. But now, as soon as my kids slide in the car, boom, they got their seatbelt on. It's almost never that because it took years for them to get it. So I did deprive them of the freedom of moving around in the car, but I educated them with what can happen if something happens, you know?
See, I think we're probably talking about two different things. So that's an action item. So you do this to remain safe. You could be strict about those type of things.
Right.
But I'm talking about things that's going to so restricted that force them to develop a personality type. So now the thing is, you know,
Can you give me an example?
you know, two different kids, same situation, you develop two different scenarios. So for example, you have twin boys and you have an abusive father that's beating the hell out of them every single day.
Right.
You have one of them that becomes a punk and one of them that fights at anything.
Right.
They're two very different boys, but they have the same experience.
Right.
But it's that experience that forced them to those edges.
Okay, so you're saying
You know.
it's all right. So that's all right. So that's like
Wait,
all right.
wait, I'm sorry, Ori.
No,
Sorry.
I know what you're saying.
What makes you think that they weren't gonna be separate without the abuse?
Well, we don't know, but what we do know is that when we see that happen, we have those extremes. So when we could watch it and tabulate it, we get that. You know, we don't
Watch
get
it. What do you mean watch
when
it?
we see it and see that in action. When we go back
Like
and
on paper.
we see people that have had that situation, this very abusive father and these two kids that raise them,
All right,
and
all
then
right,
so we
all
see
right.
that. Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I just wanted to say this. You refer to my analogy of the seatbelt and the phone as not being the same because one is about safety. Taking that phone away might be more about safety than you
No, I
ever
agree.
would imagine.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Go ahead, sorry.
but
Go ahead.
that's-
Ulrich is over here. Ready?
Yeah,
come
I
on.
said no.
Come on. Let me get it.
No,
Come on.
that-
Give it to me.
All right, but we are
Pause.
definitely talking about different things. All right, because when you talked about the father being abusive towards the two kids in that German, that's not necessarily parenting. That's just like the I don't know, the father's behavior. I'm not
I
saying
know
that's
what you- I know
not
what you mean,
necessarily the father's parenting, but
It's just to give an example of an extreme situation. The parenting, whatever the parenting, that could also be extreme and it'll result in the same type of conclusion. I just kind of gave something that you could bite your teeth on, like, you know, this guy's hitting. So it's something that we kind of like, you know, could.
But I think
identify
parenting.
with.
But I think what I'm saying. I mean, this is arrogant for me to say. You two have kids. I don't have kids. I work with kids, but you know, it's not the same as being a parent.
Right.
But from whatever, even if I'm pulling this philosophy out of my ass, I think the way the restrictions you give a kid will always work on a kid if you keep on giving them restrictions, regardless of how loosey-goosey or how, you know, receptive to authority that they are. I think so. Regardless.
Can you elaborate a little more? Give me.
So I
give me
think.
an
So I
analogy.
think. So I think. So I think. Parenting that is restrictive to a child is always beneficial to a child, regardless of their temperament.
Regardless of the child's temperament, right?
Yeah. So in other words, because when you're saying that's the only way, that's how I differentiate from like the abusive dad making his child, you know, the abuse leading to one child coming in, you know, his kind of ego, whatever his personality, that aspect of his personality is showing, that is them. They are what's the word? They're mimicking his personality, but in two different ways. And his extreme of personality is making one a little bitch and one like overly aggressive.
Right,
So I get
right.
that, but as far as like parenting, and I'm gonna bring this back to Nene.
Thank you. Okay.
So Nene had an issue with her parenting, and Nene learned from her parenting because she was very giving, and she was she wanted to give to her child. She didn't want her child to be without, which I do hear that common thread a lot, which is negative. And I think if she learned, regardless of how receptive a child is to your authority, if you have that same authority, or you have that same consistency, I think it's always restrictive authority is always beneficial to a child, no matter how much of no matter how volatile, no matter how much of a school shooter he is, no matter how whatever all those ingrained personalities. Because I don't think anything. Sorry, this is like digression. But I don't think anything naturally made any people who go to those extremes in personalities when they think it's okay to kill people or shoot people, and I'm using school shooters specifically. I think I genuinely think the opposite of restrictive parenting happened to them, and I think that I think the kind of parenting that said, okay, my child's a little different. My child needs a little more. My child needs a little more rope. I think if anything led them to that act and led them to do those things, it was that kind of parenting.
I think we're kind of like saying the same thing, and I think we probably do some things that's kind of like similar. Like say for the boys, so our boys get together. One thing that my boys don't really do is to be out in the street and to like go off by themselves.
Let's say never.
Never. And the thing about it is that's the thing that all the kids clamor to be able. I remember that very first time where I was kind of like on my own without supervision and outside to go play and go somewhere, and I could go pretty much wherever I want. So now,
how old were you?
So, maybe like 11.
11, that's
11,
good.
10,
Yeah.
12,
11, you were like on your bike, on your own.
Yeah, going, like, in the back, and I could see you in the back, but then I'll break off and go somewhere and come, and they'll come like, hey, what were you at? I'm like, oh, I just was, so it starts like that.
Yeah, you slowly make it to the corner store. And,
All right.
Yeah, right.
So now, and what I'm talking about is that to give them that ability to go out there and appreciate that, but we were right on their tail without them really knowing, at first, and so your boys and girls, they kind of like have a little bit, they're kind of like used to that a little bit, be able to manage
nice.
that.
You're being nice. My kids are on their bikes all up and down the streets. I just like wear your helmets, stay together, but they are out there young.
So my boys, they don't have that at all. So when they go, like, oh, we're gonna go to the park and play basketball. So like, all right, go ahead. So after a couple of minutes, we track them. So then we get to the park and we see them, see what they're doing, playing with other little kids. So it's the process of allowing them to, navigate themselves, but also feel like, okay, well, I know he's probably gonna be around somewhere, so make them think about what am I doing? How am I doing? What should I be doing? So hopefully that'll transfer into their adult life, because the only person that's going to police you when you actually become an adult is yourself.
Right.
Now, were you raised more that way? You felt like coming up?
No, I was raised probably more on. It's weird, my father was a little bit different. He was strict and not strict at the same time. Ironically enough, he was more strict with me being out and those type of things. Whereas, say educationally, he didn't put no pressure. It was kind of like, okay. If I did very good at something, oh, okay, yeah, How about the other thing that you had? So
when it came to schooling,
exactly.
Okay.
So that's the way he was kind of like with it. But back to what we were talking about.
Weren't you almost valedictorian in your school though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
and how did he feel about that?
No, it was no different.
So
it was
pressure.
It was another day. See, that's the thing. He didn't drown you for nothing, but he didn't throw you up in the air for anything either. So it's like, it's just another day. Do what you need to do.
Yeah. And but if how old were you when you were able to walk in the door at 10 p.m.?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I had a nice little stench where I was coming in, I was getting in trouble all the time because I was supposed to be in already. So that went for a good couple of years, before you just say.
What years you think?
Honestly, I think probably around like 15. Right, because I actually was working at the supermarket. It was a ShopRite at the time. Now I think it's like a Bravo's. And
this guy's is in Newark. Correct? Newark?
So, no, this was actually in Orange.
Orange.
This was in Orange. And I used to work at this supermarket, and I remember
New Jersey, by the way, Orange, New Jersey. And
I remember one night, I came out the store, and I see him, but he's trying to stake me out. He's like, what is this guy doing? So he's hiding behind a bush. I guess he's trying to see where I'm gonna go after work and stuff like that. It's like I caught you like this way home. But so that's what he's trying to
You went straight home. You went straight home.
But so that type of stuff. So, but
do you remember the age when you were able to stay out to 10 p.m.?
To be honest, I was really sheltered. I was not allowed to go out. Like when I was allowed to go out at 10 p.m., I was probably
packing your college
17
bag.
Maybe 17, about to be out the house or something like that. Definitely, my mother was like really paranoid about me getting influenced by kids outside my neighborhood. I lived around a lot of Dominicans, and I had an African mother, and she was really racist, so she didn't really trust any of the Dominicans, so she thought they would lead me astray, but and that happened. I was led astray, but not by Dominicans, just by myself. No Dominican ever led me astray.
Okay.
Yeah, very good, very good. How about you?
Oh, I was emancipated minor at 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
much different.
Yeah, I had my own place at 15 years old. I was paying rent at 15 years old, So that was my deal, But that was what's cool about. I always gave my father respect for that when he showed up to court and signed the papers, I was worried, I sat in the courtroom for most of the morning, and he comes into the courthouse, and he signed the papers, so. And it was done so easily. I mean, it was like I just had my landlord notarize receipt that I'm paying her. I was paying her $25 a week to live in a room, and this was 1988. I was paying $25 a week, and she wrote that, and that was when I lived on 124th Street. 124th Street, right around the corner from Rice High School. Real big basketball team school. Do you know about that?
Yeah.
Right, everybody knows about Rice. Yes, I lived right around the corner from Rice. And my judge at the family court, interesting enough, was Judge Jerry, Judge Judy's husband. He was my judge in family court when I was a kid. I didn't think about it until many years later when I saw him on television. I was like, wait, that's my judge. That's the judge that, and he was real cool. He was like, all right, you got the paper, and he told my father, he was like, he's going to be on his own, right? And how do you feel about that? And my dad was like, he can handle it. He has a job, and I have my pay stubs that I worked at the time, and I had my rent receipt, and 1, 2, 3, I'm out of the courthouse in 10 minutes.
Wow,
And
that's
I
crazy.
was 15 years old.
That's one hell of a crazy. At that time, 88, 86?
1988.
I was 13. And I was, more concerned about trying to get to middle school on time because I was right across the street from the middle school, and I always got there late.
What?
Right across the street. That's crazy.
That's just another story for another time.
Another day. Yeah, another day.
You are appreciated. We love
But wait, wait a second, 1 second. This thing I just kind of thought about, that you were talking about initially. I think we talked about this before. Your grandfather, he probably was working, busting his behind, and walking, and that allowed your father to drive a nice Toyota, and then, you get to drive a nice Benz. And if you do it the right way, your child will drive a Ferrari. But if it messes up, your great-grandchild will be walking again. That's that thing with the Nini thing. If you spoil it, they're going to stop their ambition, and they're going to stop striving to become better. And then you give them everything, and then now they don't have to drive to do anything, and they're going to fall on their face.
You see why I have him here, y'all? You get this, right? I get it. You get it?
I get it.
All right, you got it.
You are appreciated, and we love you.
All right.
Oh, wait. Maybe we should see what people have to say.
Oh, what is that?
It's always good to show some love.
Let's see.
All right.
I can't really see that.
Let me
See, I
see.
need glasses,
First, keep doing real black media work. Thank you, Christopher Perkins. And then this is Blaine Martin, peeps, Big Elvis. Blaine Martin, hit the like button, peeps. Thank you for putting that out there. Even Moon app, Big Boss, Never Hungry Again, yo.
All right.
Mook and friends, peace, brother. T. Rittler, this is going to be one of our mods because he's been with me since day one.
T.
I agree
Rittler.
with the doc. You must train your child to manage their own attention.
Right on.
To manage their own attention. Woo, that's a good
Yeah.
T-shirt right there. Yeah. You want to say something, Ulrich?
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that was.
See y'all later.
We're gonna go live again. We're gonna do another one. Boom.
All right, later.